What's going on, everybody? Welcome into HQ Spotlight. We are starting with the full squad here on the desk. Jacqueline D'Agostino, Jenny Dell, Ran Carthon, Mike Renner, because I think the NFL was getting a little jealous because we were just talking college hoops like all day, every day, right? And then last night, the NFL started to pop off and just go a little crazy, Jenny.
You know when our group chat is just going wild? I think I know. By the time like dinner hit and then I woke up this morning, it was 100 texts and I was like, all right, I gotta catch up on all this. Who just got what? The Giants? Okay. Let's start with that though, okay? Russell Wilson signing a one-year deal with the New York Giants. We're talking $21 million up to. It includes $10.5 million guaranteed. You have a guy who a lot of people have mixed feelings about when it comes to his quarterback play. Now joining a Giants squad that went just 3-14 last year. What does Russell Wilson bring to this Giants team, and are you surprised by this move, Mike?
Oh, he's a good deep ball thrower. That's what he brings to the table here. In a wide receiver room, that's like the slowest guy runs a 4.44. This is one of the speediest receiver rooms in the NFL. So I think from that perspective, it's a good fit. But I was surprised because they signed Jameis Winston. I think everyone kind of had them penciled in at number 3 to draft one of these quarterbacks. And so I'm not sure if this throws a wrench in those plans, but I admire the sort of approach here. You know that Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen, they are fighting for their jobs right now. So just throw the kitchen sink at the most valuable position and see what sticks. That's what they're doing right now, and we'll see who ends up starting week 1.
Yeah, and I feel like this move does not lock them into number 3, right? Because there are other teams below them that need quarterbacks, and if you're locked in at number 3, then that allows the team to jump you to 2. And then now you're without a quarterback. Having a Russell Wilson, a veteran guy that's been a bridge in Pittsburgh, can fill that same role as a bridge now at the Giants and doesn't have to lock those guys in at taking a quarterback at 3.
So you see this quarterback room that they got going on right now with the New York Giants. How far can Russell Wilson take this squad?
That's a tough question because you're in a tough division. So you're got to overcome the Commanders. You got to overcome the Eagles right now in that NFC East, and you're looking up at the Cowboys too. So it's like, how far can he take them? I do think they've improved the roster a ton. I do still think they're on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. That's why when you're looking at the draft, pick 3 and beyond, it still looks like they need to add talent if they do have playoff aspirations, in my opinion.
They'll go as far as the talent around him. You know, we can't be mistaken. Russ is getting closer to the age of 40, and so he's on the other side, closer to the end of his career than he is at the beginning. And they still need more weapons to add more guys around him, especially losing a guy like Saquon last year. And you saw the difference he made for Philly when they signed him.
Yeah, that was not aging well for the Giants when Saquon went over there for Philly. So I know we showed the quarterback room, right? So we have Tommy Cutlets, we have Jameis Winston, who's always going to give us a great pregame speech. Then we have Russ, Mr. Unlimited. If we're looking at those guys, I know that the pregame vibes are going to be like 12 out of 10, right? But if we're circling back to that number 3 overall pick, right? Because we're trying to think, hey, what are they going to do? Are they going to go the quarterback route? Do they trade down and get a lot of talent? Ran, I will start with you. What do you think they should do? Should they take Shador and have him learn maybe under Russ, or do they go a different direction? What do you think is best?
I think if I'm going with my gut, I say you still go with the quarterback at 3, because if you're being honest, your quarterback for 2026 is still not under contract. So you're playing for this year. Like Mike talked about, there's some speculation that the head coach and the GM are working for their jobs. And so you have to plan for the right now, but also have an eye towards the future. And taking your quarterback at 3 allows you to have a plan for the future.
Yeah, I agree with Ran in that's what you should do. Now, but now will they? It's like
that's a good question.
That's why you kind of don't want these head coach and GM combo that has to win now, right? You never want to make short-term decisions as an NFL franchise. You want to make the long-term decisions. And if you're looking at the short term, who's going to give you the best? Well, Travis Hunter's probably going to give you the best chance to win this next season because he can go both ways for you. You can fill 2 positions. So, Shedeur Sanders, you draft him, he might be your QB3 right out the gate. It might not even make an impact on this roster.
There's a lot of questions, too, about just filling in places where they need some more weapons. And could they get a guy like Travis Hunter this year and then maybe next year get a player like Arch Manning to come in and just, complete the whole Manning story that people are liking to unfold? Could you see that scenario happening?
I think it's a little easier said than done because you're going to have the number 1 overall pick if you want a guy like Arch Manning. In my opinion, just seeing what
There's a way to do it, Mike.
There's a way, but it takes 2 to tango, and there might be a team sitting at 1 just being like, not even answering that cell phone if you pick up and try to call him.
Yeah, and if I'm those guys, I'm not trying to, fill up the cupboard for the next guy coming in, because in order for them to get a guy like Arch, like Mike said, you're going to have to pick at the top, which doesn't bode well for Coach Daboll.
All right, so we were talking about all the moves that happened last night. Another one that went down, Stefon Diggs agreeing to a 3-year deal with the New England Patriots, a $69 million contract over there. Spent the last season with the Texans, of course, suffering that torn ACL in late October. So still unclear if he's going to be okay to start the season with the Pats, but they got an all-pro wideout out there. What do you like about that addition?
I'll be honest, I don't love this addition.
Okay.
I know that they needed the wide receiver position, but one, the sticker tag might not be real. The $69 million is only $26 million guaranteed, so it might not be that big. But you just look at Stefon Diggs' his last 2 stops. C.J. Stroud had a better season before Diggs got there. Josh Allen had a better season after Diggs left. And I go back to when Baker Mayfield got a guy in Odell Beckham, who was this alpha sort of wide receiver, this locker room guy that was just changing sort of how he approached it, and he fell off a cliff. I don't want to do the same to Drake May. I don't want to put a guy who 3 different teams have said thanks but no thanks and sent on his way into this building, who's 31 years old, coming off an ACL. To me, I would have just let him grow with the guys that are in there and keep drafting and developing. I'm not sure this is where I wanted to go if I'm doing a Patriots.
Like Mike, I'm just interested to see what the real numbers are.
Yeah.
Because the $23 million a year for a guy coming off of ACL who you don't know if he's going to be ready for you at the start of training camp, who has to learn a new offensive system, which is much different than the ones he's been in. There are a lot of concerns there. I understand where you will feel it with a veteran, having a veteran presence in that room, but I also feel like a guy at this caliber, you need more speed for a young Drake May who can push the ball downfield.
And, you know, we were talking about, hey, Russ going to the Giants, what does that mean for them with the number 3 overall pick? And now we're wondering, Stefon Diggs, what impact is that going to have on New England when they're drafting number 4 overall? And we see the wide receiver ranks here last season. They are not good. That's what this graphic is telling us.
That's not good?
Last, 28th, tied for 28th. It's really not the best. And you have your franchise quarterback of the future in Drake May. I know you talked about Travis Hunter, and you mentioned that, Mike, but what do you think they should do? Should they go that route, even with Stefon Diggs, or do you need some protection for Drake May? What direction should they go with that number 4 overall?
Yeah, if Hunter's on the board, I think to me that's a no-brainer because you didn't need just one wide receiver. You needed multiple wide receivers. So that would make sense for them. But if he's not, it gets a lot hairier because to me, left tackle is obviously the biggest point of contention on this team. That's where your biggest need lies. But there's not really that guy in this draft class, say the way there was last year where Joe Walt's there and it's just like a no-brainer. You just pick him, he's going to be good. The best tackle in this draft class might well be Armand Membu, but he's a right tackle who you have to flip to the left side. Will Campbell might be the best left tackle in this draft class, but he has short arms and a small wingspan, so he might have to kick inside to play guard. And then Kelvin
that guy
Banks
should not get away from the he's
not going to get away from
it. He's never going to.
So it kind of reminds me of the 2022 offensive tackle class where it was Ike Ekwonu, Evan Neal, Charles Cross. There's 3 guys with similar grades. You wanted to take the 3rd one. Charles Cross ended up being the best one in that draft class. So I don't want to just sit at 4. I'd rather trade back and then draft one of the tackles. I think you get some value in that regard.
For me, it feels like tackle for them at 4. They were in on Dan Moore to sign Dan Moore as a free agent before he ultimately signed with the Tennessee Titans. And Ladarian Lowe, who is there penciled in currently as the left tackle, he's on his final year of his rookie deal. So this just feels like a left tackle position because you signed a veteran right tackle in Morgan Moses to help solidify that spot. So this feels more like an offensive tackle pick for me at 4.
Okay, so there's still more news to be broken. That's just the NFL world that we live in. There's no off season there. They don't care about college basketball right now. And one of the big names that we're waiting to figure out where he is going to play next, if he is going to play next, is of course Aaron Rodgers. What's the latest you guys are hearing on Aaron?
I'm hearing that it's going to take his sweet time because it's Aaron Rodgers and he's loving it.
Yeah.
He's loving this. This is what he lives for. He doesn't run on anyone else's time clock. And honestly, there's one spot open. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. If it's not them at this point, it ain't going to be anybody. I don't think there's anyone else that wants him as their starting quarterback. So it really is just Pittsburgh Steelers or maybe something comes off the wall and the Minnesota Vikings come calling. But I think that's what he's hoping for. I don't think that phone call is going to come.
Yeah, this is a big question mark for me because does Aaron Rodgers feel like a Pittsburgh Steeler?
Does he?
Not to me.
To me,
No.
there's a certain culture fit that when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you think of a certain caliber of guy. And I don't know Aaron personally, so I don't want to go that route. But this doesn't feel like a good fit for me, especially in Arthur Smith's offense and some of the way we've seen him call offenses. To me, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the dark horse to come up for one of these quarterbacks if they start to fall.
So then if it's not the Steelers, what does Aaron Rodgers do?
I think you pivot back, like Mike said, and hope for Minnesota. Because they have a young quarterback who's coming off of an injury who could very well be ready for OTAs, but he's still a young quarterback who's essentially a rookie, and they have weapons around that they're in their window to win right now. And so you're going to need a veteran presence in that room.
Really quickly, just to circle back to the Steelers, because from all of us on the outside looking in, it just feels like, okay, this is taking forever. What is taking so long? What is it like being in negotiations and having talks with a veteran presence in free agency, and it's taken forever? Like, what is that like?
It's a pain. It's a pain because it shapes so much of what you're trying to do moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you have to have cap space. You don't know where this is going to go, so it limits you in what you can do moving forward until you get that one deal in particular done. So it's constant phone calls, it's calls with the agent, it's calls with the players. It's almost like high school recruiting. You get certain players from your team like, hey, can you please call your buddy so we can figure this out and get it done? So yeah, it becomes a real pain.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, how this impacts the Steelers, especially with the draft. Are they going to wait until after the draft to deal with this Aaron Rodgers thing? Who knows? Ran, Mike, we certainly appreciate it talking to us about some of the craziness that we've seen in the NFL. And of course, we're less than 1 month away from the upcoming NFL draft. A lot to look forward to there as well, Jenny.
All right, after the break, the latest in the association. We got updates on injured players, expectations as we start that turn towards rounding out the regular season. That is next on Spotlight.